Hello and welcome back to our channel. This week's video is about Harris hawks and wingtip oedema. So for the last two summers, flying season if you like, our Harris hawks have been put away at night in their mews, on bow perches, and they've come out in the day on their high wing perches in the sunshine and to have a bath. Now once the icy weather starts to come, in England now, you're really looking at kind of heading towards December seems to be now before we get any frosty weather at all. It's just wet and windy and quite mild for winter nowadays. And what we do is the weather forecasts start to dip below 5 degrees, that's about the threshold. We'll start to put our Harris hawks, it's usually about the time we're resting them, and they'll go into free loft aviaries fully covered most of the time. And have a look what happened in this instance. So we always like to show you the warts and all. We always say if we seem patronising, it's because we've made the mistakes. We're giving you the wisdom of our stupidity so you can learn from that without making the same mistakes. Now here's exactly what happened. We've got a bow perch in there, and we've got a bow perch in there, and we've got two, sometimes three of our working Harris hawks in there overnight. So they're low down, they're in the frost layer. And if you've watched our other video, you'll know why it's preferable not to keep your Harris hawks low down within the frost layer during frosty weather. And chain of events, my stupidity. Harris hawks there, I've walked in here, I bent down here, I tied down one of the Harris hawks, tethered him for the night. I've walked out of here, and as I turn round, would you believe it, a piece of food, a day-old chick, has fallen out of my vest pocket, my hawking vest pocket, onto the floor there. I'm looking at the hawk, I've shut the door. So until it got dark that night, and until I came in the morning, the Harris hawk tethered there had a carrot dangled under his nose. Past the length of his leash, he spent goodness knows how long, bless him, baiting forwards, trying to get at that food. I can't see it now, the door's shut. It was literally behind the bottom bar of the door. He's rowed forward with his wings, probably just out of beak reach, bless him. He's rowing forward, desperately trying to get that bit of free food there, just out of reach. And he's obviously abraded his wing butt here. No sign of any damage the next morning. Didn't think too much of it, only poor old boy. Typically, 2 nights later, we had a freak frost. We had no frost at all. We had a frost, and it was about freezing point that night. Not horrendous. And that's exactly one of the best ways to get wingtip oedema in your bird. It's got a little bruise or a little bit of abrasion that you don't even notice, followed by a frost. That damaged flesh there develops that oedema, a fluid under the skin, and really frostbite sets in. So that's how it happened with our hawk. Despite our how to keep your Harris hawk videos telling you all the best ways to avoid wingtip oedema, and I've been flying birds and having Harris hawks now for over 30 years, I've never had a problem with it at all. I've always took those precautions. It just goes to show, keeping animals, the Murphy's Law is always waiting to attack you. Give it an inch and it'll happen. So that's how it happened. Now we've got to look at how we can remedy the situation and what we've done to hopefully save that wing. If we can't save those primary feathers and that frostbite turns gangrenous and the flesh there dies, it's such a tiny amount of flesh on that bird's wing that holds in those feathers. It doesn't need much of it to die away. That bird will lose its primary feathers and they'll never grow back, and that bird then has got very little purpose and it can never fly. So let's have a look at the progress and see how we go from there. Now we're going to tell you some of the treatments we've used for wingtip oedema, but let me start by saying I'm not a vet. If your animal of any kind is injured or ill, your first port of call is your specialist vet. You really need, if you keep birds of prey, to locate a decent avian vet, and if they specialise in birds of prey and not just birds, so much the better. So stuff we've used is stuff recommended by vets to us or people we know closely and has helped be effective. So bear that in mind. We're not vets, we're not selling you snake oil, we're telling you what we've used and what vets have recommended to us to use. Our vet prescribed a course of antibiotics for internally, and to keep the bird heated and warm, you don't want to put something with frostbite out into the cold. It still is under heat and will remain that way until the wound is healed or the weather warms up. Anything that's poorly usually benefits from being warm, that is for sure. We were already treating with F10 ointment, and the vet prescribed Betnovate to help the wound and encourage the wound to heal. I suffer from eczema, so Betnovate was actually free. And to keep the bird lightly exercised, so it's flying indoors, daily cool-offs, for its rations of food each day, it's keeping well fed, and just gentle exercise to encourage the blood flow to that area. You can see here the progress of the wound from a blister-filled oedema, and gradually as that's gone down and subsided, and the wound is beginning to heal rather nicely indeed, but for sure we're still waiting, and it's fingers crossed to a degree how that progresses. So firstly here you can see it's looking reasonable, although here time will tell. You can also see how very little flesh these primary feathers are actually rooted into. Here's that damaged area. Not happy about this bit, but generally it's looking an awful lot better. And another thing, see, when you use any cream or ointment, this is what I'm talking about underneath here, it rubs away. It doesn't rub away, but it dampens the feathers underneath. How ridiculous. And that's something that always happens if you're putting cream and ointment under this part of the wing. So once we feel any creams or ointments have done their job, we'll carry on a little bit of treatment with a medicated talc. I'm going to put a little bit on here now. Can you put some on my hands, please, camera person?
Let me just focus the camera. Ooh.
So this, just to help dry that area out into there, but still, a little bit of medication on there, just to sort of dry the area out, which looks pretty good. Of course, two more things of note. If you and I'll keep banging on about it, if you actually learn how to use a hood and what it's for and the purpose of hooding birds of prey, straight away you can manipulate the birds, you can apply things without causing it any stress whatsoever. Don't need to cast the bird, I don't need to catch up the bird, and I don't need the bird to see me doing possibly what it thinks are quite bad things to it and ruining that bond. Making your birds to the hood, really good animal welfare tool. Here he's in quite close confinement. You can see his tail's a little bit grubby, but certainly not at any point I feel the need to hose this bird down, spray him down, or offer him a bath at this stage, so no problems there. But of course, it'd be nice when that's nice and clean. So, happy with the progress, as can be for a wingtip oedema incident. We're probably gonna now stop applying everything and just keep an eye on that. So we may switch back to a little localised area, a little bit of F10 ointment, just to actually go back to softening that dried out bit right at the end there, but a much more localised treatment. And really, we've got to let nature take its course. There's nothing much more we can do other than keep an eye, treat little bits where needed, and fingers crossed really. So we'll report back somewhere in our vlogs as to how this bird progresses. At the moment, I'm reasonably confident for sure, but we'll see. We'll certainly be glad to have a good old bath and sunbathe in some warm weather, but that's a long way off yet. Thanks for watching. We hope it helps someone for sure, but prevention is always better than cure with wingtip oedema. Like and subscribe. Check out the other videos.